had been with a Beijing elite tycoon for 8 years when I got pregnant. I tentatively asked if he would marry me. His eyes were gentle, but his tone was mocking. Be good. Don't make trouble. You should understand, someone like you, a maid's daughter, could never marry into my family. A few days later, he publicly announced his engagement to the socialite who used to bully me. When I left, he didn't try to stop me. He only said coldly, "Have you really thought this through? If you walk away today, don't expect me to take you back if you ever regret it." But 2 months later, the one who regretted everything was him. That day was my wedding. He stormed in with his men, furious. "Fiona, you're marrying someone else with my child? How dare you?" Chapter 1. My mom worked as a housekeeper for the Luis family. I'd followed Luis around like a shadow ever since I was a child. Because of our worlds being so far apart, I never dared to hope anything would happen between us. But when I was 17, beneath the cherry blossom tree, Luis held me tenderly and kissed me. I fell for him, hopelessly. After my coming-of-age ceremony, we crossed the line on his large bedroom bed. While his mother knocked on the door with warm milk, Luis deliberately moved harder. He leaned into my ear and teased, "If you don't want her to find out, try moaning a little softer." Luis's mother had strict views about social class. If she found out what we were doing, the consequences would be disastrous. I was terrified, but the pleasure was overwhelming, so I bit down on Luis's shoulder hard. 8 years passed in a blur. The bite mark still remained on his shoulder, and I still had to stay in the shadows. I wasn't even officially his girlfriend. Whenever someone asked, he'd just say, "This is my little sister." I knew deep down, he would never marry me, so I had planned to quietly disappear the day he got engaged to someone else. But now, I was pregnant, and I wanted to fight for my baby. That night, Luis came home and lifted the blanket, waking me, worried for the child. I tried to resist, but as soon as I pushed him away, he frowned. "Fiona, I don't like being refused." In bed, he was always domineering and possessive. Thinking of what I needed to ask of him, I gave in. Halfway through, I held my belly protectively, and he placed his large hand over mine, pressing gently. "Did it hurt?" he asked in a husky voice. "A little," I replied, barely able to speak. He kissed my ear and whispered, "Then I'll be gentler." He did slow down. These fleeting moments of tenderness always tricked me into thinking he might actually care. Afterward, lying lazily against the headboard, he lit a cigarette. Seeing he was in a good mood, I carefully asked, "Luis, if we had a baby, would you consider marrying me?" He twirled a strand of my hair between his fingers, looked at me softly. "If you're pregnant, keep the baby." That line sparked a flame of hope in my heart. But the very next second, he crushed me with cold finality. "My child will stay in my family. But marrying you? Impossible." His voice remained calm, but his words were sharp as knives. "Fiona, you should know, someone like you, the daughter of a maid, has no place in my world." It wasn't unexpected, but it still hurt like hell. I held back my tears, took a deep breath, and forced out, "I'm not pregnant. I was just joking." He gently stroked my hair like he was soothing a pet that didn't know its place. "Fiona, be good. Don't be greedy. Anything else you want, I'll give you. Just not the title of Mrs. Luis." But I knew I would never get what I truly wanted. I couldn't have him, and I couldn't keep the child. I wouldn't let my baby be born a bastard. Chapter 2. After that night, Luis didn't come back for several days. Only when the news broke about his upcoming wedding with Helen did I realize that during these days, he had been accompanying her to visit wedding venues and try on dresses. In the photos my friend sent me, Helen was smiling brightly as she spoke, and Luis, looking down at her, listening intently, had a hint of tenderness in his eyes. My breath suddenly became uneven. Without even thinking, I rushed to the headquarters of Luis's family group. I wanted to ask him why, even if he needed a marriage alliance. Out of all the women in the world, it had to be Helen. Unlike my breakdown, Luis remained completely calm. "It's arranged by the elders. Her family background, education, and abilities are all decent. I have no reason to refuse." Tears welled up in my eyes. My voice trembling. Luis, have you forgotten what Helen did to me? To this day, I still remember that when I was 16, Helen shoved my head into a sink, her beautiful face twisted with cruelty. Back then, although Luis and I only had a simple relationship of master and follower, I was the only girl allowed close to him. Because of this, after Helen's repeated confessions to Luis were rejected, she turned her anger on me. She and a group of her girlfriends cornered me in the bathroom. They cut my hair, tore off my clothes to take photos, and threatened me viciously. If you dare to seduce Luis again, I'll make sure your nude photos appear on every corner of the internet. That day, when I appeared in front of Luis with my hair chopped into a mess, his expression immediately darkened. Who did this? Tears streamed down my face as I choked out. Luis, I don't want to go to and from school with you anymore. Luis, always smart, instantly pieced everything together. He pulled me into his arms, his palm gently patting my back. Don't be afraid, Fiona, I'm here. About half a month later, Luis told me all the photos had been destroyed. Helen had also dropped out of school. Her parents locked her up at home and wouldn't let her go anywhere. Later, I heard that being shut in like that led her to depression, so she went abroad for school and treatment. All these years, Luis had protected me so well that I had long buried the entire incident deep in the past. I never expected that Helen would reappear in my life, and in this way, the Luis standing before me was no longer the boy who once stood up for me with righteous anger. He looked calm, unbothered, and said, yes, Helen did wrong back then, but she's already paid the price. She was young and didn't know better. She's matured a lot these years, realized her mistakes, and has told me many times that she feels sorry for what she did to you. Fiona, it's been so many years. You don't need to keep clinging to the past. Move on. In that moment, I couldn't help but wonder, did Luis ever really care about me at all? Because if he had, how could he say something so cruel? My chest tightened with pain. I trembled uncontrollably. He noticed something was wrong and stepped forward to hug me, sighing helplessly. Fiona, this marriage with Helen is just a business arrangement. There are no feelings involved. You don't need to worry about her. Just stay by my side, all right? I promise. She won't hurt you again. I understood perfectly what he meant. He wanted me to be his mistress. I let out a bitter laugh and pushed him away, choking on my words. Luis, I'm not that cheap. His face darkened instantly. What's that supposed to mean? I felt exhausted beyond words. Let's break up. Maybe he hadn't expected me to say it first. His eyes turned cold, sharp like a blade. After a long pause, he suddenly sneered. Break up? With what? Exactly? You were never someone I could bring into the light. We were never really together. He truly knew how to hurt me where it cut the deepest. Every word from his mouth was like a knife, slicing me open until I was raw, breathless from the pain. I forced myself to swallow, my voice barely audible. Then let's leave it at that. Let it end here. I didn't care what he thought of me anymore, and from now on, I would never love him again. I turned and walked away. Just as I reached the door, his cold voice echoed behind me. Fiona, are you really sure about this? If you walk out today, don't come running back when you regret it. I won't take you back. I didn't stop. I didn't even look back. Chapter 3. It took me half a month to crawl out of the emotional pit of heartbreak. Then, I went to the hospital to get an abortion. But fate really has a twisted sense of humor. The doctor told me that because of my physical condition, if I went through with the abortion, it would be difficult for me to conceive again in the future. And I've always loved children, so, after agonizing over it, I decided to keep the baby. Luis had once said that his child must carry his last name. I was afraid that if he ever found out, he'd try to take the baby from me. To ensure nothing went wrong, I decided to marry someone to cover for both me and the child. I hadn't even figured out where I'd find a man trustworthy enough to play husband and willing to raise a child that wasn't his. When Ethan showed up at my door like fate had sent him. Ethan, my junior from college, devastatingly handsome, with abs and a slim, athletic waist, starter on the basketball team, a regular on the university confession wall, ridiculously popular. He had pursued me for quite a while back then. But I had been utterly blinded by Luis and couldn't see anyone else. So I turned him down. Just as I was about to ask him how he found out about my situation, my phone lit up with a few notifications. It was a message from my best friend. "Girl, did you see Ethan yet? He's been thinking about you all these years, and now that you urgently need someone, I figured Ethan's a good fit, so I gave him the heads up. Don't be silly and turn him down again. That boy's strong, and all his strength is yours to use. It's precisely because Ethan likes me that I don't want to take advantage of him. Are you sure about this? You're only 24. Marrying me means giving up the whole colorful world out there. Is it worth it?" He replied firmly, "There's no such thing as worth it or not. I'm willing to do anything for you." I still hesitated a little. "And, can you really treat my baby like your own?" He raised his brows slightly and pulled a document from his backpack. "Sis, I've already had a vasectomy at the hospital. Your child will be the only child I'll ever have in this life." He had even thought this through. He was just too considerate. I really had no more reason to refuse. "All right then, let's get married." Ethan's eyes lit up instantly. He raised his voice in excitement. "Really? Thank you." I almost laughed. "You're the one helping me out. Why are you thanking me?" Scratching his head with a sheepish smile, he said, "You're giving me a chance to take care of you. Of course I have to say thank you." He's had a buzz cut for years. It makes his features look even sharper. But when he gets shy sometimes, he actually looks kind of cute. I couldn't help but smile. Chapter 4. Both families quickly settled on a wedding date. By coincidence, or irony, it turned out to be the same day as Luis and Helen's wedding. Just over a month ago, I was still imagining myself marrying Luis. Now, we really are getting married on the same day, only to be someone else's bride and groom. Life is unpredictable, indeed, but I no longer feel sad. Luis and I were never truly from the same world. Going our separate ways is only natural. That day, after trying on my wedding dress, I went with Ethan to a private restaurant for lunch. On my way to the restroom, I unexpectedly ran into Helen. Seeing her beautiful yet vicious face, I instinctively took a step back. Helen, however, smiled and raised her hand to flaunt the diamond ring on her finger. "Fiona, you clung to Luis for over a decade, and in the end, he married me. You're so pathetic, a loser under my heel." I didn't want to argue with her. It was meaningless. I tried to walk past her, but she blocked my way. "What's the rush? Don't you want to catch up with an old friend?" I was genuinely disgusted. "Could you just stay away from me?" She smiled. "Sure, but help me with one thing first." Before I could react, she suddenly grabbed my hand and slapped herself across the face. Then she let herself fall to the floor, crying in a pitiful tone. "Fiona, I know I wronged you back then. If you hit me or scold me now, I deserve it." She used to be openly malicious, but now she'd learned to act. I was utterly shocked by her performance. Just then, Luis came rushing up from behind me, helping Helen to her feet. He frowned. "What's going on?" Helen sobbed, tears and snot streaming down her face. I ran into Fiona and wanted to apologize for the past. Who knew she'd suddenly hit me? Luis's head snapped up, his cold eyes on me. "Even if Helen bullied you before, she's already been punished. Fiona, must you be so aggressive?" He frowned, speaking imperiously. "Apologize to Helen." Anger swelled in my chest. "She staged this herself. It's nothing to do with me. I won't apologize." I tried to leave, but Luis seized my wrist and jerked me back. "Fiona!" My back slammed into the wall. Pain shot through me, tears stinging my eyes. When I looked up, Helen's lips curled in a smug, provocative smile. Then I met Luis's icy black gaze, and the injustice made me bite down hard. "I'm not wrong. I won't apologize. I said you're not leaving until you apologize." His face darkened as he reached for me again. Suddenly, an arm shot between us, blocking him from me. "Mr. Luis, self-restraint is a virtue. I suggest you learn it. Don't you dare lay a hand on my girlfriend, or I won't be so polite." Luis's brows knit tight as he stared at Ethan standing protectively in front of me. His voice turned glacial, each word cutting. "Girlfriend?" Ethan didn't deny it. Luis looked back at me, his eyes harsher than I had ever seen, sending chills down my spine. Fiona, it's only been a few days and you've already found a new man. So desperate you can't live without one. Is that it? His voice was cruel and deliberate. If you like being passed around by men so much, you should have told me earlier. I've got a few buddies who'd be very interested. I could let them all have fun with you. Chapter 5. Luis hurled the vilest words at me, utterly unrestrained. I was trembling with rage. Luis, you bastard. Ethan couldn't hold back any longer and threw a punch. You filthy-mouthed scumbag, why don't you just drop dead? The two of them broke into a full-on fight. In the end, neither came out on top. Both of their faces were bruised. I rushed to check Ethan's injuries. Does it hurt? Your cheekbone's already turning blue. How are we supposed to have a wedding in a few days? Ethan shook his head. It doesn't hurt. He looked at me apologetically. Sis, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have let myself get hurt right before the wedding. I'll put medicine on it tonight. I promise to heal up before Saturday. It's not your fault. I glared furiously at Luis. If anyone's to blame, it's him. Luis happened to be staring at me too, his black eyes filled with disbelief. He questioned sharply, "You're marrying Ethan?" I looked at him coldly. Yes. So what? What's it to you? Ethan added. Exactly, Mr. Luis. Why don't you focus on shutting your trashy mouth and go entertain your little pretentious coquette of a fiancé? Helen, upon hearing that, immediately put on her innocent act and clung to Luis's arm. Luis, don't listen to them. I'm not some pretentious coquette. Luis didn't respond, nor did he push her away. His icy gaze swept over both Ethan and me. A moment later, he curled his lips into a contemptuous smile and said, "Whether you two get married or not, it's none of my business. Fiona was just a toy I used for 8 years. I've been tired of her for a long time. Ethan, since you enjoy picking up used trash, I'll let you have her." That one line reignited Ethan's fury. I quickly held him back before things escalated too far. Don't hit him. Ethan clenched his jaw and forced himself to step back. I then turned and slapped Luis hard across the face. Luis, I truly regret ever loving you. His head turned with the force of the slap, his features growing colder as he lashed back with venom. Weren't you the one who wore lingerie and threw yourself at me? Weren't you the one who clung to me even without a title or name? Fiona, you were desperate and pathetic all by yourself. Who do you think you're blaming? Those once passionate memories had now become the chains used to humiliate me. Shame burned through me. I swallowed the lump in my throat and said with difficulty, "Yes, I was pathetic, but not anymore. Luis, I don't love you anymore. From now on, we go our separate ways." With that, I ignored his stormy gaze, took Ethan's hand, and walked away. Chapter 6. Back in the private room, the tears I'd been holding back finally spilled down my cheeks. I had thought Luis and I could part ways peacefully. I truly hadn't expected him to humiliate me so publicly. Even though I'd long since stopped expecting anything from him, I still felt humiliated and wronged. Ethan gently wiped away my tears. Don't cry, sis. Luis was never any good to begin with. You've escaped the sea of misery. From now on, you'll walk a broad, open road. You should be happy. I hesitated, feeling the need to warn Ethan. I was with Luis for 8 years. We've done everything, things we should and shouldn't have done. Ethan, do you really not mind? If you do, then we can call off the wed. Before I could even finish the word cancel, he interrupted urgently. I don't mind. He clasped my hand, his words earnest. Being involved with a scumbag isn't your fault. You just misjudged him. Let the past stay in the past. From now on, we'll live well as a family of 3. I truly had been blind before. To think I once believed Luis was affectionate and righteous, and let myself fall so deeply for him. Today I finally saw his true colors. He's vile and extreme, not worthy of my love at all. Looking back seriously, those 8 years might have had sweet moments, but they were hard on me. With Luis, I had to be obedient, compliant, always putting his needs first. I couldn't show jealousy, couldn't make things difficult for him. Whenever he was unhappy, I had to rack my brain to coax him. If he ignored me, I'd be so miserable I couldn't sleep. I was like an accessory to him. All my emotions rose and fell with his. By contrast, being with Ethan felt so much lighter. I didn't have to guess what he was thinking or adjust myself to his preferences. He didn't need me to soothe him, because in front of me he didn't even seem to have a temper. He was truly good to me. Knowing I couldn't stand the smell of smoke, he quit on the spot to take care of me and the baby. He spent his days reading parenting books, scrolling through apps for new mom tips, and filling notebooks with advice. He even stopped going out with friends, coming straight home after work to be with me. This past month together made me feel that maybe spending a lifetime with Ethan wouldn't be a bad choice. I turned my hand over to clasp his and said sincerely, "Ethan, right now what I feel for you isn't love yet, just a little affection. But after we marry, I'll work hard to build that love. Are you willing to stay with me through it all?" His lips curved softly. His gaze burned into mine as he said gently, "I'm willing. In this life, the next, and the one after that, I'll always be with you." I laughed through my tears. Chapter 7. Inside the private lounge at the club. Friends were all cracking jokes and teasing each other. Only Luis sat silently in the corner, drinking one glass after another, exuding a cold, oppressive air. Ever since he heard a few days ago that Fiona was marrying Ethan, he'd been like this, lifeless, brooding. No, if he were being honest, his mood had been terrible ever since the day Fiona said she wanted to end things. He believed he'd treated Fiona quite well. Aside from not giving her a title, he had given her almost everything else. A house, a car, designer bags and jewelry. She lacked for nothing. His first love, first kiss, first night, all of them belonged to her. And over all these years, she'd been the only woman by his side. He had ignored every other woman who tried to throw themselves at him. Even during business dinners, he would at most share a drink, never play along or flirt. In elite social circles, a man like him was rare, almost unheard of. All those young heirs had women on both arms, changing lovers like changing clothes. But Fiona? She still wasn't satisfied. She had the nerve to dream of marrying him. A woman of her background, how could she ever step into his family's home? People of their class only married for power. They would never marry out of pity. He did have feelings for Fiona, but those feelings weren't enough to make him stand against his family. Helen was chosen for him by his father. At first, he had hesitated. After all, Helen had once bullied Fiona, but upon seeing her again, he realized she had changed a lot. She was no longer arrogant and domineering. She now seemed composed, gentle, and refined. She repeatedly apologized for the past. She even admitted she had someone else on the side, and that this marriage was just a forced arrangement. She told him that if they married, they could each live their own lives and stay out of each other's business. Two people trapped in the same cage, sharing the same mindset about marriage. Marrying a strategic partner was far better than marrying someone who would interfere. So, Luis agreed. At the time, he thought Fiona would understand. After all, she had always been obedient and sensible, always putting his interests first. It never crossed his mind that Fiona would actually break up with him. It was the first time she had ever defied him. He was furious, so furious that he lashed out, saying every cruel thing he could think of. Fiona had left without a trace of hesitation. It felt like someone had gouged a piece out of his chest, empty, hollow, without a home. Every time he woke up in the middle of the night and reached for her, only to find the space beside him cold. Loneliness gnawed at him. He wanted Fiona to come back, but he wouldn't say it out loud. He only buried the thought deep in his heart. Because the arrogant and proud Luis had never bowed to anyone in his entire life, there was no way he would humble himself and ask a woman to come back, unless one day, Fiona returned on her own. Otherwise, this was how they would end. Chapter 8. 3 days ago, at the restaurant, when Helen accused Fiona, Luis didn't believe a single word. He knew Fiona too well. She wasn't scheming, she was pure, kind-hearted. There was no way she would hit and curse Helen. So, the only possibility was that Helen was lying. In that instant, Luis felt a wave of disgust toward Helen. He had thought she changed, but it turned out to be all an act. Deep down, she was still that arrogant and venomous heiress. And yet, he still chose to defend her, because he was furious that Fiona had walked away from him so decisively. He hated how easily she had let go of their relationship. He made things hard on her on purpose, demanding she apologize, All he wanted was for Fiona to say one soft word to him, just one. If she had, he would have held her in his arms right then, told her he believed her, that he still wanted her. But she didn't. Worse yet, she was getting married. She said she didn't love him anymore. Blinded by rage, he lashed out again, every word a dagger straight to her heart. He thought, if she was going to make him miserable, then she shouldn't get to be happy either. But when he saw that humiliated, tearful look on her face, it didn't bring him any satisfaction. All he felt was stifling, suffocating pain. The clock struck 4 a.m. Luis tilted his head back and drained the last glass of liquor. He was about to call for more. One of his buddies tried to stop him. Dude, you're getting married this morning. Don't drink yourself stupid. How are you gonna show up to the ceremony like this? At the mention of the wedding, Luis felt even more irritable. The mere thought of Fiona marrying someone else made his chest feel like it was being scorched by fire. He could hardly breathe. Claude, who knew him best, sighed and said, if you really can't let Fiona go, you still have a few hours. Go stop her, because once she marries someone else, it'll be too late. Even with his heart being clawed apart, Luis kept his pride up. She can marry whoever she wants. You think I can't live without her? Claude gave him a look full of exasperation. Come on, man, drop the act. I know exactly how much you care about her. Then Claude dropped a bombshell. My little songbird told me she saw Fiona at the OBGYN yesterday. Luis froze. Claude went on. Looks like she's pregnant. I don't know how far along she is, but you should investigate it. If she got pregnant before you two broke up, then that baby's definitely yours. Luis suddenly remembered their final night together. Fiona had asked him if she were pregnant. Would he be willing to marry her? Had she already known then? Was she testing him? Luis couldn't even name the emotions swirling inside him. There was excitement, nervousness, even anger. Of course he wanted to have a child with Fiona, but if it was his child, how dare she let it call someone else dad? He dialed his assistant's number, his voice cold. Check Fiona's medical visit records. Now, on the other end, the assistant looked like he might cry. It was the middle of the night. Was he Luis's mule now? Chapter 9, 11 a.m. In the hotel lounge, I stood in front of the mirror, wearing my wedding dress. Thankfully, I was slim, at 3.5 months pregnant. It still wasn't obvious, so the gown fit perfectly. The slight curve of my belly just looked like a bit of post-meal bloat. Relieved, I was about to sit down and rest. Suddenly, the door was pushed open from the outside. I thought it was Ethan, so I turned around with a smile. You're here. But the moment I saw who it was, I froze. I had no idea why Luis, who was supposed to be getting married today too, was standing here. I frowned, instantly on guard. What are you doing here? His expression was dark, and he stepped toward me, one slow stride at a time. A chill of danger ran down my spine. I instinctively stepped back and warned him, don't come closer, or I'll scream. He ignored me and suddenly grabbed my left wrist, his voice cold and sharp. Fiona, how dare you marry another man while carrying my child? My heart skipped a beat. I instinctively denied it. You're mistaken. I'm not pregnant. He sneered. If you dare let my child call Ethan dad, then I dare to kill him. You believe me? I was terrified by how crazy he sounded. Luis, are you out of your mind? Yes, I am, he shouted, pulling me toward the door. You're coming with me today. I won't let you marry Ethan. Let go of me. I was panicking and furious, struggling with all my might, but his grip was too strong. I couldn't break free. In desperation, my right hand brushed against a vase. Without thinking, I grabbed it and smashed it straight into Luis's head. Crash! A loud, shattering noise rang out, followed by blood gushing from his scalp. He staggered back, dazed and swaying, his grip on me finally loosening. I quickly took 2 steps to the side. Luis turned to look at me, disbelief all over his face. Even his voice was shaking. Fiona, you hit me? Blood kept flowing, dyeing half his face red. It was terrifying. But I only stared at him in anger. You came here to cause trouble. If you get yourself killed, you have no one to blame but yourself. His expression twisted in grief. There was even a hint of hurt. You want me dead? You hate me that much? I don't hate you, I replied coldly. Hate comes from love, but you? You're no different from a stranger to me now. His face dimmed, his voice hoarse. Fiona, how did we end up like this? I had no desire to discuss anything sentimental with him. I turned and headed for the door, but as soon as I opened it, 4 men in black blocked my way. My heart dropped. I turned back, shocked and furious. You're trying to kidnap me? That's illegal. Luis gave a bitter, self-mocking smile. I'm sorry. This is the only way I can keep you. He nodded to the bodyguards. Take her. The bodyguard nodded. Yes, sir. Chapter 10. Luis ultimately failed to take me away, because Ethan and several of the groomsmen arrived just in time. The scene was utter chaos. The bodyguards and the groomsmen fought fiercely, neither side gaining the upper hand. In the end, they stopped only because Luis had lost so much blood he passed out. Fearing something might happen to him, the bodyguards had no choice but to stop and rush him to the hospital. Ethan anxiously turned me around to check me, and only when he saw I was unharmed did he relax. He held my hand, apologetic. Sis, I'm sorry. I was outside greeting guests and didn't know what was happening here. It's not your fault. Who could have predicted Luis would go completely off the rails, abandoning his own wedding to crash mine? With Luis out of the way, the rest of the wedding went smoothly. After an entire day of busy events, by nightfall at home I collapsed on the sofa, exhausted. Ethan volunteered. Sis, let me massage your feet. Help you relax? You know how to massage feet? I was genuinely surprised. I went and studied it specially. Ethan was indeed a good student. His technique was excellent. It felt so comfortable that I actually drifted off to sleep. When I opened my eyes again, an hour had passed. Ethan was tidying the room. The coffee table and bookshelf I had messed up were now spotless. I couldn't help but exclaim, "You're so capable." He smiled. From now on, you just rest. The housework can be handled by the nannies and me. Ethan had hired 4 nannies to take care of me. I felt it was too much. That's not necessary. It's such a waste of money. We're both able-bodied. We can do a lot ourselves. Just hire some hourly help. But Ethan said, it's very necessary. You're pregnant. You need plenty of rest. Don't be afraid of wasting money. The more you spend, the more motivated I am to earn. Ethan was extremely capable at work. Back in college, he co-founded a gaming company with friends. The games they launched were well received and made considerable profits. In terms of income, he was already among the best of his peers. Since he insisted, I said nothing more. I accepted the warm milk he handed me and went to rest after drinking it. Chapter 11. When Luis appeared before me again, I wasn't surprised. The moment I saw him, I immediately opened my phone's dial pad and entered 911. I warned him, Luis, if you try to kidnap me again, I'll call the police. When that happens, your crazy stunts will be all over the trending news. I hear your father's at a critical point for his promotion. If you don't want to drag him down, then don't mess with me. Whether it was because his injuries hadn't healed or because of my threat, his face was unusually pale, his voice hoarse. Fiona, I'm not here to hurt you. I just want you to come back to me. I laughed bitterly. Go back to being your hidden mistress? No, he denied. I've already called off the wedding with Helen. I won't marry her, and I won't let you be a third party. I'd heard both families had planned a grand wedding, inviting numerous influential families. Luis's runaway groom scandal was huge, spreading through the streets and alleys. Helen had lost all her dignity, becoming a public laughingstock. Lately, she didn't even dare leave her house, afraid of being mocked face to face. But what did any of that have to do with me? I no longer cared about her or Luis. Luis kept talking. Fiona, as long as you're willing to come back to me, I'll try to persuade grandfather and mother to let me marry you. If I can't convince them, then I won't marry anyone else. I'll spend my life with only you. 2 months ago, hearing those words would have made me overjoyed. But a promise that comes too late has no meaning anymore. Luis, I don't love you anymore, and I don't want to marry you. From now on, marry whoever you like. You don't need to report it to me. Pain filled his eyes. Yet there was still a flicker of hope. You're willing to keep our child. Doesn't that mean you still have feelings for me? His gaze dropped to my slightly rounded belly. He was almost pleading. Fiona, come home with me. From now on, I'll take care of you and the baby. We can live happily as a family. I knew he must have checked the dates of my pregnancy to be so sure the child was his. Since that was the case, there was no need for me to deny it any longer. I laid it out plainly. Luis, stop flattering yourself. I'm keeping the baby, and it has nothing to do with you. The doctor said my body isn't strong. This might be my only chance to be a mother in this lifetime. So even if this child isn't yours, even if it's another man's, I'd still choose to keep it. His eyes reddened, a mist of tears rising as he growled in self-deception. I don't believe you. We've known each other for 18 years. Been together for 8. How can you not love me? Together? I let out a cold laugh. When did we ever have a real relationship? Weren't you just keeping me as something you couldn't show in public? Chapter 12. I repeated his words back to him. His face went as white as paper in an instant. His voice trembling. That was me talking nonsense. I was angry because you brought up the breakup. I was babbling. Fiona, you are the only woman I've ever loved in this life. I've been serious about you. Never just playing around. I scoffed. Luis, there's no such thing as someone who loves like you. All these years of being with you without a name or status, I was really wronged. Because I loved you, I always kowtowed to you, put up with your foul moods, and bowed my head to coax you countless times. But now I don't love you. What are you even to me? Don't come looking for me again. I don't want to see you. I tried to walk away, but he wrapped his arms around me from behind. Fiona, don't go. He held me tight. His voice thickened with sobs. I can change everything you don't like. I'll change. I'll treat you so well from now on. Please don't ignore me, okay? Let go. I snapped, raising my voice. You don't have to change, because I don't want your good anyway. Do you understand? He refused to let go, his tone utterly abase. Please, I'm begging you, don't ignore me. My patience ran out. I slammed my heel hard onto the top of his foot. Because I'm pregnant, I wasn't wearing stilettos, only 3 centimeters heels, but I put my whole weight into it. And he loosened his grip in pain. I seized the moment and bit his wrist until blood flowed. In the end, he had to let go from the pain. I glared at him coldly. If you dare pester me again, don't blame me for being ruthless. His eyes filled with a thick sadness. He looked at me in pain and despair. Fiona, can't you give me one chance? I was icy and resolute. No. Even after my absolute refusal, Luis wouldn't give up easily. Apology messages arrived one after another. Piles of jewelry were sent, and baby supplies were delivered in countless amounts. He even hired a drone team to stage a light show confessing to me. He camped outside my house at all hours of the night. To be honest, his persistence started to annoy me. I thought for a long time, to make him truly let go, I had to use drastic medicine. So that day I stood in front of him. He nervously stubbed out a cigarette, his voice almost pleading. Fiona, did you need something? I got straight to the point. Luis, if you keep harassing me, I'll have this pregnancy terminated. He was struck like by lightning. His pupils fluttered. No, I continued. If you insist on harassing me, then I have no choice but to cut off the last thread that binds me to you, even if it means I'll never be a mother in this life. I will go through with terminating this pregnancy, I mean it, and I will do it. The color drained from his face, his lips trembling. Fiona, why are you being so cruel to me? Why won't you even give me a single chance? Whatever you don't like, I will change. Whatever you want, I can give you. Wouldn't that be enough for you to look at me again? For the first time in his life, he humbled himself to the dust. But I didn't soften. If I don't love you, I don't love you. Even if you gave me the whole world, I wouldn't want it. If you show up again tomorrow, I'll be on the operating table the day after. He lowered his eyes, hollow and dejected, as if his soul had been emptied. Finally, he gave a bitter smile and let the tears fall. I understand. Chapter 13. After that day, I never saw Luis again. As time passed, my relationship with Ethan grew increasingly stable. He was simply too good to me. No matter the time, he always put me first. There was a period when I lost my appetite. He devoted himself to learning how to cook delicacies just to make me eat a few more bites. If I so much as said I wanted to see him, Even if he was on a business trip abroad, he would immediately book a flight and fly back to me. He accompanied me to every prenatal checkup. Going from merely liking him to falling in love with him happened naturally. When I told Ethan I love you, he froze for a long moment before coming back to himself, his voice trembling with excitement. Fiona, thank you for being willing to love me. I found it amusing. Why are you always thanking me? When I married him, he thanked me. When I loved him, he thanked me again. He grinned sheepishly. Because you're the best gift heaven ever gave me. Warmth filled my heart. I tilted my head up and kissed his lips. In an instant, his cheeks and neck flushed red. It was hard to imagine that someone who'd always been chased by girls could be this pure. I felt like teasing him and kissed him again. This time he adjusted quickly, gently returning my kiss. The atmosphere was turning intimate. The bedroom door suddenly opened. Fiona, Ethan, I washed some cherries for you. Ethan's mother's voice came without warning. We quickly pulled apart. Ethan's mother gave him a playful glare and pulled him aside to scold him. Fiona's still pregnant. You need to control yourself. Don't do anything that could harm the baby. Ethan's face flushed again. He glanced at me shyly and said to his mother, Mom, stop it. I know. Looking at Ethan's awkward expression, I couldn't help but laugh. 4 months later, our daughter was born. Ethan worked from home for nearly 2 months, spending his days taking care of me and the baby. He even handled the baby so well that the maternity nurse marveled. Good men like Sir are rare. I smiled and nodded. Yes, I'm lucky. Our daughter grew little by little. Every year on her birthday, an anonymous person sent her an exquisite gift. When she asked me who it was, I thought for a moment and told her, a distant cousin of Mommy's. All these years, Luis had kept his word, never disturbing me or my daughter. Thanks to that, we 3 could live peacefully. After buying the durian milk crepe cake my daughter wanted, I held her hand as we left the shop. Outside, Ethan stood at the steps with one hand in his pocket. Our daughter hopped and skipped toward him. Daddy! Ethan opened his arms, bent down, and scooped her up. Watching the two of them so happy together, I couldn't help but curve my lips into a smile. This was the life I had always dreamed of.